Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajmain. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarikalah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. The Honorable Committee, we are the lecturers from Master of English Education of Makassar Muhammadiyah University would like to present the research article by the title Vocabulary Knowledge versus Sociocultural Knowledge in EFL English as Foreign Language Reading Comprehension. We are the three presenters. I am the first presenter, Dr. Radia Hamid, MPD. The second presenter is Dr. Siti Asriati, MHUM. And the third presenter is Dr. Saipul, MPD. Well, greatly understanding and comprehending the reading text, EFL students use mostly their prior knowledge of their linguistic and sociocultural knowledge. Based on the previous related studies, there are two studies studied about grammatical and vocabulary, in the influence of grammatical and vocabulary in EFL reading comprehension. The first, Hamid et al. 2020, did the study to know the influence of grammatical and vocabulary knowledge in reading comprehension, and further determine the dominant influence between grammatical and vocabulary knowledge. And the result, the dominant influence is grammatical vocabulary, grammatical knowledge. And Choi and Son 2018 performed systematic reviews. The result of their study showed that both types of linguistic knowledge are important underpinning the second language reading comprehension, but there was no clear evidence supporting which type of linguistic knowledge is more contributive than the other. And about Gunger and Yeli, Gunger studied about only vocabulary knowledge, not not grammatical or sociocultural, but only vocabulary knowledge in EFL reading comprehension. The first Gongoryali concluded that 90-80% vocabulary coverage is needed for EFL learners to comprehend academic texts. And Gafar and Dehgan investigate the possible effects of sociocultural-based teaching techniques on EFL learners' reading comprehension. Meanwhile, Salim and Azam 2015 also studied to examine the effectiveness of sociocultural approach in reading comprehensions, and clearly exhibited that sociocultural approach is quite effective for teaching reading comprehension skills. The studies clearly indicate that the reader's prior knowledge about content schemata or sociocultural schemata and linguistic schemata, vocabulary schemata, and its relationship with the reader's reading comprehension are researched or studied separately. Therefore, this research, the present research, is presented to find out the influence and relationship between vocabulary and sociocultural knowledge with the reading comprehension of EFL readers. Next slide. Reading comprehension is a very complex cognitive activity. Skilled comprehenders use a wide repertoire of language skills to gain meaning from the text by constructing a text-based model, while at the same time they draw even and use their own background knowledge to construct a situation model of the understanding related to the text passage. In Greater Cook in 1989, in other words, says that the greater the background knowledge a reader has of a text, the better the readers will comprehend the text. Some readers may have reading problem if they are insufficient of background knowledge or schemata. Next. Anderson and Pearson, 1984, states that one of the key processes in schemata theoretic account of cognitive processing is inferencing. Inferences are involved in the process of deciding that what schema among many should be called into play in order to comprehend a text. Two different types of schema or background knowledge, according to Hudson, 2007, that the readers bring to bear on the text. The first type is content schemata, which relevant to the content area and cultural knowledge. The second type of schemata is formal or linguistic schema, which represents the background knowledge of the readers as regarding how syntax is used to structure text, cohesive rehearsal, and the rhetorical organization of different text types. This study only focuses to analyze both of schema. Content schemata for sociocultural knowledge and formal or linguistic schema in terms of vocabulary knowledge. Without understanding the meaning of words, we could say that without understanding the meaning of words, second foreign language readers may have a hard time developing comprehension. So the schema or background knowledge about language, especially vocabulary, is one of fundamental knowledge that must be in cognitive processing of the readers. And on the other hand, Brown, 2001, state that schemata, sociocultural schemata, which contain information about people, culture, the world, the universe, import general knowledge of life, including culture, history, and society, that are familiar topics for the readers. Therefore, he emphasizes the role of topic familiarity as a significant factor in second language comprehension. The next slide. So, the present research have objective to find out the significance, correlation, and influence of vocabulary and sociocultural knowledge in EFL reading comprehensions. Okay, the next slide. The present research use correlation quantitative research. So the 40 EFL 6th semester student of English Education Department of Unismuh Makassar were selected by using purposive sampling. The first we have selected by using purposive sampling, and the next we use simple random sampling. The result of purposive sampling. Purposive sampling here, the students is Islam. The student is Buginese, and the student live in Makassar 3 years minimum. The purpose of sampling. After that, we have 60 students or 60 samples, and we have select we have to select the 60 to be 40 by simple random sampling technique. There were two kinds of tests: proficiency test, 25 questions for sociocultural text, and 54 vocabulary tests. And reading comprehension tests, 3 topics of reading passage in the levels of comprehensions are literal, inferential, and evaluation comprehension in multiple choice forms. 3 readings about Islam pillars, wedding of Buginis, and the favorite place is in Makassar city. The data were analyzed by regression and correlation analysis among 3 variables. The next presenters, please, Ma'am Asriati.
The findings, based on the research, we found 2 findings. The first one is about regression analysis. And the regression analysis here intended to know about the influence between English foreign learners, readers, sociocultural, and vocabulary knowledge towards the reading comprehension. And we can see here from the table, and it showed that students' vocabulary knowledge significantly influenced the students' reading comprehension. But their sociocultural do not influence significantly. It means that the better students' vocabulary knowledge, the better their reading comprehension. The result also show that their formal or linguistic schemata in terms of vocabulary knowledge plays major role in the English foreign learners students comprehension processing than content schemata in terms of sociocultural knowledge. Statistically, these findings can be generalized to all students of English Education Department of Teacher Training and Education in Muhammadiyah Makassar. By F-test, a significant value 0.01 smaller than 0.05. By L square is 0.322. It means that the research model showed the condition on the research subject with value 32.2% and the residual as 67.8%. Is the restriction of the research instrument, as well the facts about out of the researcher's capability, or something others those are not included as indicators of the variables. These residuals were unable to be predicted by the researcher and are expected to be complementary facts in the next discussion section. These residuals may not be included as indicators of the variables. The limitation of the instruments, such as the questionnaire about interesting topics of reading and the condition of the students who were fasting during data collection. The next slide, in table 2, about Pearson correlation analysis. We know here that to what extent the relationship among variables, including vocabulary and sociocultural knowledge and reading comprehension, it is also can be stated that the result here means there is strong correlation between vocabulary knowledge and reading comprehension. You can see here but low correlation between sociocultural knowledge and reading comprehension. This result describes that if the English foreign language readers have good vocabulary knowledge, they will comprehend the reading text properly. Conversely, if they have bad or less vocabulary knowledge, they will not comprehend the reading text properly. The results also mean that their sociocultural knowledge could not be correlated with vocabulary. We can see about the score here in science, the vocabulary just 0.034, meanwhile sociocultural just 1. And it means that sociocultural knowledge could not be correlated with vocabulary knowledge to comprehend the reading text, and it is failed to be used in interferencing the meaning of the words. And the next session will be continued by my partner, Dr. Saiful.
Based on the previous explanation, get us to lead to the conclusion and discussion. But let me give some point in the discussion. First one is reader linguistic processing interference. The second is mostly students depend on their interpreting according to their previous linguistic, namely vocabulary knowledge, and then a failure to use the appropriate background knowledge, namely SCAM, means a failure recognizing or interpreting the reading text. Actually, this present study focuses on reading comprehension for English as foreign language, or something that we usually call English for foreign language students. That means the students here acquire the knowledge and the skills about English by learning, for sure. And then in English foreign language, students acquires the linguistic competence by learning. Thus, it is the sense when they comprehend the text, they use reader, their linguistic competence through vocabulary knowledge. And moreover, as we know well that Indonesian as a first language is Indonesian's language, namely students produce first language by using Bahasa, is more different linguistically with English as foreign language, while English here means as a target language. This is also in line with grade 2009, says that when two languages are more distinct linguistically, there are, there is a greater likelihood that there will be a greater linguistic processing interference. Like for the discussion that we can conclude led to the previous explanations, based on the findings, it could be perceived that the students did not maximize to use their sociocultural knowledge in comprehending the reading text, or in other words, the familiarity of a reading text is not important for them. But this is led to the vocabulary mastery, and then they mostly depend on their interpreting according to their linguistic knowledge. This perception is actually also in line to the study conducted by 2007 by Suharmanto, concluded that this study advanced English foreign language readers, while they are sufficiently equipped with formal schemata embracing both linguistic knowledge and text structure knowledge. So that can be speculated to consist three groups, namely fail to activate the relevant content of schemata, those who fail to use reading strategies, and those who can function both content and word background knowledge, and also their reading strategy with case. Some of examples can be comprehensively explained through this presentation, namely the poor competence here of vocabulary also were figured in their basic parts of a speech, namely as it could be seen as question for the students, answering for vocabulary proficiency tests, like this following question. Only 3 students gave right answer for point A, because the correct answer is you are the only person, blah, 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 I can talk to whom, but only 2 students, only 3 students. And then another example, like the inferential comprehension question, also the passage here as follow, like Makassar has become a modern city, boasting an array of a top-star rated hotels along the coastal boulevard, but walk into a side street and you may well think you are back in the 19th century, which would show the opposite of the modern city. By given these examples and tests to the respondent, there were 7 students give right answer for the correct answer is C, but walk into. So we can conclude that they have lack knowledge, yeah, for sure, about the conjunction, but means that they fail to interfere the using of conjunction, but making the sentence or other sentences the opposite from the prior sentences they make. That's why, based on the 3 examples we already given in the previous, we led to the conclusion that the students' vocabulary knowledge influenced significantly toward their reading comprehension. But meanwhile, their sociocultural knowledge was proved insignificantly through the regression analysis through the second speaker already explained just now, in influencing the reading comprehension. And linguistic schemata, of course, in terms of vocabulary knowledge, still plays major role in the English foreign language students' comprehension processing. And then the third or the last point is the better sociocultural knowledge that the students have will make the better vocabulary mastery they must have, because the comprehension is still more depend on their competence about meaning, use, and forms of English words. Some implication and suggestions we also made in this PowerPoint presentation slides. First one is to develop a method or a strategy that support the ability of the students to use and to give motivation to the students to reactivate their linguistic knowledge, because this is the key terms of success reader in case of making the students more intensively and aggressively love the way to read. And then the second is the English foreign language students should learn and be taught much knowledge about vocabulary. This is actually the parts of a formal schemata, because vocabulary will determine the student's ability, will determine the student's mastery in understanding the text that they read based on their prior knowledge also. But the key points or the most important things in reading comprehension is knowledge about vocabulary. And the last is the EFL students are also expected to use higher processing to activate this skill in understanding the different English reading texts by using a wide repertoire of language skills. This is actually the implication and the last suggestion we can give. And then the last slide is we would like to say thank you very much for the kind of attention. And then I will be take back to the first presenter, Ma'am Dr. Radia Hamid, MPD.
This is the end of our presentation. By saying Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin, nasru minallah wa fathun qarib, wa basyiril mu'minin, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.